Hello everyone, Zellerant here, and for today's video on Girls Frontline 2, we're going to be taking a look at Voymastina's kit. And oh boy, man, this kit is crazy, and we finally are seeing crazy power creep because she surpasses Klukai quite significantly in the damage department. And so I thought before we look at the kit, we'll just show you one quick example of this. So this is the start of a fight in Girls Frontline 2. And as you know, Voymastina has an ability where she does an attack on start of the match. Before you do anything, she has an attack at the start of the match. And we're going to see it in action right here. And boom. Everyone's dead. Mission ended. You didn't even do a single action there. So, Klukai has been surpassed. But let's go ahead and take actually a look at this kit. It is pretty insane here. So I've already kind of looked through it a little bit. We've already looked at the kit in terms of without the numbers, but now we have the fixed key, like the actual numbers with the fixed keys and all that, as well as what the dupes do. One of the big things I've been hearing from people testing her out is she's not dupe heavy like Klukai in terms of you want to get to V3 or V6 to do single target damage, as well as she is crazy good on AoE, as we have just seen with that clip here. So let's just go ahead and get right into this kit. Actually, let me bring this over here. And so, Voymastina, so we go down to the passive first. The passive is what I like to always look at first. And so, Voymastina is immune to movement and displacement and movement debuffs and does not receive protection from cover. But even though she doesn't receive protection for cover, she gets reduces damage taken by 30%. And then when stability is more than 0%, takes additional 80% instead. So she is just a massive tank. You're just putting her out there, and she can take all the hits. Crazy good there. When dealing physical damage, ignores 50% of the target's defense. After using active skills or basic attack, increases Confectance Index by 2 points. If Confectance Index is at max, consumes all of that and gains Predation or Predation Patrol. So if we take a look at that, the next active attack ignores 50% of the target's defense and has a 30% increased crit and 25% increased crit damage. This is considered a buff and cannot be spelled. I mean, these are just massive. She has tons of defense ignore built into her kit. You can already see how she's going to pair very well with Yuhi. And so she gets that immediately after. And so that is the passive there. So now let's go ahead and take a look at basic attack here. Nothing crazy with that. But then again, you should really never be using basic attack. Because when we look at her skills here, we have the first one here, which is got a cooldown of 0, Confectance Index cost of 0, ability damage 3. So this one you can spam if you wanted to. Selects an enemy target within an 8-tile radius and deals AoE physical damage equivalent to 120% attack to all enemies within a 3-tile radius of the target. So just an all-around big AoE attack damage to enemies in an area. But one of the nice things she has within all of her skills is they all have passives as well. When an enemy within attack range receives targeted damage from allies, performs an instance of action support dealing AoE physical damage and 3 stability to all enemies within a 3-tile radius of the target. This effect can be triggered once per round. The big thing that I really like about this, and this is not going to be the meta, of course, but since it's action support AoE, it can be converted to corrosion. And so a fun team that I'm going to be trying out is a corrosion team with her when she comes out, just to pair her with Klukai, take the 2 broken units and pair them together. But she does like to do physical damage, as we saw in her passive, to get that additional defense ignore. So that's not going to be the best way to use her, but it's just a fun thing you could try her out for there. So really nice like that. We have the second skill here, Eye of the White Mastiff. Voymasta gains Wolf Eye System for 2 rounds, which Wolf Eye System is if the enemy is within an 8-tile radius and is about to move, or before it attacks, or when it ends its action, so pretty much anything they do, performs an instance of a lock-on attack dealing AoE physical damage equivalent to 80% attack that ignores cover and 1 stability to all enemies within a 3x3 tile radius of the target. This effect can be triggered once per target per round. That's the big thing. Once per target per round, up to a maximum of 6 times. So if you have a boss and you have, like, some of these bosses have mobs that are spawned around them, you're doing this to that boss 6 times. You just think about it, because you can do it 6 times, and each one of those mobs, as it attempts to do anything, you're going to blast them with a big AoE attack that's also going to hit the boss that's right by them. And then this is also going to be very good for just field clearing on normal story missions. I mean, her AoE is just insane. And then you have the passive assigned to this one. At the start of battle, this is that one thing I just showed you in video. At the start of battle, deals physical damage equivalent to 100% attack that ignores cover and 3 stability to the 5 nearest enemies on the field. Voymastina is immune to all damage and fixed damage lasting until the effects of the passive have been triggered. Oh, and also on this, she gets extra command after running the skill, meaning she can go from this into another skill, or ultimate. I mean, just crazy right here. I mean, she's just covering the entire field. And then you have her ultimate slash AoE slash displacement here. Selects a direction and deals AoE melee physical damage equivalent to 200% attack to all enemies within a 1x2 tile radius in the selected direction. After the skill usage, gains additional movement, so then she can move after that. But this has a passive assigned to it. When enemies within attack range receive targeted damage from allies, performs an instance of action support charging to the ally, so charging to them, to an empty tile within a 2-tile radius of the target and dealing targeted melee physical damage equivalent to 150% attack that ignores their cover, 3 stability damage to the target, and if there are no empty tiles, shoots at the target to deal the damage instead. This effect can be triggered once per round. So she, even though she has like once per round on her support actions, she's got multiple variations of them. And so it's just crazy on the amount of time she can attack enemies with all of her stuff here. And these are all very strong hitting attacks. And that's why you'll see probably her best weapon. I don't know if I completely agree with the recommended weapons up here. Golden Melody, I'm going to say, is probably better than Planeta to me. I would have to kind of see, but because of all the support actions, I may raise that higher. But both of them are going to be great alongside her own good weapon there. But that's the ultimate. And so now let's go ahead and take a look at the fixed keys with that. So we have fixed keys down here. So the first one, Howl of the Firmament. If the skill or its passive effect hits a boss enemy or 3 or more enemies, gains quick barrier. And so this is just adding to our tankiness. I would have to see what the boss's types of damage is doing, or EX mode, because quick barrier is just basically reducing targeted damage by 60%. Like, she's got a ton of tankiness within herself. So paired with Yuhi, which Yuhi's not a massive healer, but with the amount she can tank, I think Yuhi might be able to sustain her on her heals alone, just with what we're seeing here. And so that's just another, if you really need the tankiness, you can use that fixed key. This key 2, Pile Bunker. After triggering the passive effect of that skill, gains movement up 2 for 2 turns. So you can get a little bit more movement out of her, but as we get deeper into her dupes here, you can see that eventually, I mean, he might not even need movement because she's just a walking tank that destroys everything around her. Fixed key 3, the range of all action support is extended to the entire field. She doesn't have even, like I said, you can have movement too, but you don't need to move around the field with action support. You put this one on and she just hits anywhere and deals 30% more damage towards non-boss enemies. And so this is where I think it'd be really fun pairing it with, say, Klukai, because Klukai goes in there, hits all the enemies, and then she does all of her some of her support actions to just hit them wherever they're at in the field. But crazy good there. You have Howl the Firmament. If the skill or passive effect only hits one enemy, so like this is a boss specific one, increases the damage dealt by 20% and stability damage dealt by 2 points. So just making it more damaging to bosses. You're going to use this like on Gunsmoke, Frontline, and that. Fixed key 5, before attacking, gains defense shredding for 3 turns. And so defense shredding up here. When dealing physical damage, and this is why I said, I mean, while you can make her do some corrosion damage, everything she has is tied to physical, so you probably don't want to do that. But I think it'd just be fun. When dealing physical damage, if the target's defense reduction exceeds 100,000, for each additional percentage of defense reduction increases the damage dealt by a certain percentage. This is just like with Yuhi's kit. And yes, with Yuhi and her, you're going to surpass it by quite a lot. This is considered a buff and cannot be dispelled. And here you have percentages all the way up to greater than or equal to 300%, additional 1.5%. I mean, it's just insane the amount of damage she can do with that. And then we have that one. And then the last fixed key, Pile Bunker. After being attacked, the next usage of the skill does 15% more damage. So you want her to take the hits, so that way she can do more damage with Pile Bunker, which is the ultimate one. So crazy amount of damage just overall in her kit here. But now let's get to the dupes here, or the vertebrae, if you're wanting to invest in another hyper carry. She does surpass Klukai by a significant amount from everything I've seen. So if you were thinking about, oh, maybe I'll V6 Klukai in the future when she repeats again, if you're all about the meta, just know that she's going to be the better one now at this point. Klukai still being my favorite, but I mean, this kit here is making me, and the whole mech idea is making me think maybe she's another one I may want to V6. We'll kind of have to see, because I kind of really don't want to V6 any more units or kind of spend that kind of money, because it's not really necessary anymore for me. But we have Vertebrae 1, increases the damage multiplier to 180% attack, increases stability damage dealt by 2 points, and increases the effect area by 2 tiles, so more AoE. Passive is now changed to increases the damage multiplier to 150% attack, deals stability damage, and increases that area by 2 tiles. So just bigger area and more damage. Really nice. Just a little upgrade on V1 there. V2, before triggering an active or passive effects of that skill, Pile Bunker, which is the ultimate one. Increases attack by 10% for 1 round, which it decreases at the end of the current round. Applies Frightened to the target for 2 rounds. So the target you're targeting with it gets frightened, which is when the holder is attacked by Voymastina, which she's going to be attacking everybody. Reduces defense by 40%, so more defense shred. It's just crazy. Frightened to the target for 2 rounds. Okay. So you have more defense shred, which ultimately increases the amount of damage done with her other buff. The one that makes it where even at past 100%, you're doing even more damage. You have a V3, Wolf Eye System. Increases the duration by 1 round for it. And so you get an additional whole round of having this buff. And since it has a cooldown of 1, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember. Yeah, it has a cooldown of 1 turn. So by increasing it by 1, you can basically keep it up forever. Round, and increases the damage multiplier to 130% and removes the maximum trigger limit per round. If the enemy is spawned within attack range, deals targeted damage equivalent to 130% attack and 1 stability to the target. Passive is increasing the damage to 300% attack, increases the number of targets to 10, and applies a stun for 1 turn after attack. Like, she's designed, I think, to destroy the new EX difficulty, which has a lot of conditions around it. She can control the field and do a lot of damage. Unless they have one of those buffs that makes the AoE weaker, like the stuff that kind of countered Klukai, could potentially counter her as well. But with how her kit works, she may have workarounds that Klukai does not. So that's pretty crazy right there with the stun. And then before triggering the active or passive effects of the skills, apply Dismay to the target for 2 turns. And Dismay is movement is decreased by 1 tile. So reducing their movement, attack is reduced, and stability damage does. So not only can she reduce or increase her own sustainability by her high defense and damage reduction, she also can reduce their attack, which makes it where she can take even more hits. I mean, the amount of damage she's doing and the amount she can tank, she could probably like solo do some stuff like it's no problem. Like she just can take like no damage. And you have that. Upgrade 4 for Howl of the Firmament. New effect as added for passive. When performing action support, gains 1 stack of coordinated hunting. Remember, she has multiple ways to do action supports within her kit. And so coordinated hunting increases the damage dealt by and crit by 10%. Can be stacked up to 3 times. So you can get 30% crit rate just from that. I mean, I'm pretty sure, looking at a lot of her kit, I think it might be possible to hit 100% crit rate in her kit. Which means she's just always going to be critting. If you're investing heavily into the dupes here. Because that one's a dupe 4. So, really crazy right there. Then you have Pile Bunker. The alt one increases damage multiplier to 300%. If Voymastina has Predation Protocol, increases attack. So if she has that buff, just another 30% attack. Before triggering the active or passive effects of the skills, apply defense down for 2 turns. And so I'm trying to remember, because there's no other defense down 2 in her kit. But this builds it into her. I'm pretty sure physical has somebody else that can do the defense down 2s. But I could be wrong. But this just kind of covers it. If you go all V5, now she can apply it. And now you're pretty much ensuring that the enemy has it. So more defense reduction built into her kit. And this one also, I don't think Yuhi does it herself. I think it's one of the other. I could be very wrong. Let me take a look at that before I say that. She have defense down 2 in her kit. Oh yeah, it looks like she does have it in there. So probably just makes it a little easier to keep it up on the boss there. So pretty nice. But then you have a V6, and just like Klukai, this is where she becomes even more broken. She's already broken at V0. That's one of the big things. But V6 goes even more beyond. Increases movement speed by 2 tiles, so now she has more movement. At the start of battle, gains Pursuer. For each round, if Voymastina uses 2 or more active skills or their passive effects, gains Pursuer or refreshes its duration. For each action support performed, gains 1 stack of Hunting Rhythm. And so this Pursuer, this new buff here, is increases damage dealt by 45% and crit damage by 30%. And as we already seen, she's going to be critting non-stop. She has all that crit rate. And just a 45% damage increase. She has that. And then other buff, Hunting Rhythm. If this effect is stacked up to 5 times at the start of the next turn, triggers an instance of the passive effects of Eye of the White Mastiff. And as you remember, the passive effects of Eye of the White Mastiff increases damage multiplier to 300%. Oh, well, that's just talking about the increases. But at the start of battle, this is the one that's a start of battle, so she's going to trigger another AoE, deal physical damage to the 5 nearest enemies. So now you're pretty much going to, if you didn't wipe the field already, you're going to probably wipe the field on the next turn when she does it basically again, hitting pretty much everyone. And then when her attack is increased, as we've seen, it's always getting increased. Her defense is increased by 50% of that attack increased value. So now when she gets an attack increase, she gets more defense, even more tanky. And this is up to a maximum of 30% of her initial defense. And when dealing physical damage, ignores even more, 125% of the target's defense. So just her V6 makes her surpass that 100%, as we can kind of see up here. And so it's just crazy, the amount she has in her kit. Now, one big thing is, as we're already seeing in it, is the difference between her and Klukai in terms of full value on dupes. She doesn't need it. She is crazy good without them. But just like Klukai, with them, she gets crazy good. But she can do single target damage and everything by herself, unlike Klukai, which is a big advantage. But she also surpasses Klukai in damage by a long shot now, from what I have seen, and the numbers, because and so physical has basically become the new meta. They surpassed both Corrosion and Hydro. And so AK-15, her weapon here, increases physical damage dealt by 10 up to 20% with max dupes. Physical damage ignores 20% up to 45% of the target's defense. You're already getting a crazy amount of that. And that's where I'm thinking it could be potential gold melody or planata might just be enough. But I mean, it's just your default defense 1 here. And let's see. I think that's pretty much everything there. I've covered all those. Oh, I did not cover her. For some reason, I didn't look at her common key. On the common key, attack plus 5%. She already gets tons of crit everywhere else, so having attack on the common key is good. When dealing melee damage, increases physical damage dealt by 10% for 1 round. And so she has melee in her ultimate, but this one is, if there's no room to attack them, she does a ranged attack instead. So I don't know if this is like my, I don't know. She does that. She does her ultimate, and then it increases the physical damage dealt by 10% for 1 round. So after she does her ultimate, now she can, for that entire round, action supports and everything else are going to do a lot more damage as well. And so, I mean, it's tied to her. So you kind of have to see, it'll kind of dictate in the situation. You probably just want to always have it on her though, because that's a permanent 10% versus what I think most of the others is 7%. But yeah, that is her kit. I really like seeing the physical team elevated up, because I like a lot of the physical team members. It seems like Voymastina and Voymastina and Yuhi are going to be a pair. Everybody else is just going to be bonuses. You just have Voymastina, Yuhi, and then whatever. Who knows? We might see some good hybrid teams. That's why I was thinking of the idea of trying out a hybrid Klukai, Mishti, Viridia, Voymastina, Yuhi is my 5, and just see what happens. I mean, you're gonna clear the field if it's a normal story. It's just gonna clear the field instantly with her, and then a bosses, it's just going to be massive amounts of damage to the boss. I think that would be my core team, and then I would have my mono hydro. I think kind of the direction I would go, and then my third team would either be like burn or ice or whatever. But yeah, overall, really good kit. Let me know what you think of her kit, and if you're planning on pulling her when she comes out for global, because I 100% will be getting her, and we'll kind of see what happens. I mean, it's probably a while off before we get her, but there could be potential that I may pull for V6 just because I'm crazy. But that's it for now. If you like my content, if you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps, and thanks for watching.